How should you deal with those people who hurt you and treat you badly? You have probably asked yourself this question many times during your life. Well, in this video, through a Zen story, you will discover how to defend yourself and your inner peace from these people. Stay with us until the end because, thanks to Buddhist wisdom and practical advice that we will give you, you will know exactly how to preserve your emotional balance and distance yourself from certain individuals. Subscribe to the channel The Smiling Buddha to receive other precious teachings on Buddhist philosophy and personal growth. In the heart of China, nestled among the ancient trees of a forest, there was an ancient Zen monastery surrounded by serenity and tranquility. There resided the Venerable Master Lao, a man of profound wisdom and compassion, whose words were a beacon to his devoted disciples. At his side, his followers learned the Buddha's teachings, seeking to cultivate inner peace and compassion toward all living beings. One day, during one of the evening classes, one of the young disciples, Ming, expressed his frustration over the injustices he had suffered at the hands of people who had taken advantage of his good faith, hurting him deeply. "Master Lao," said Ming, "Buddha teaches us compassion toward others. But how can we remain impassive in the face of those who systematically harm, exploit, and offend us? It is not right to always turn the other cheek while these people suffer no consequences." Master Lao, smiling serenely, invited his disciples to sit in a circle around him. Then he took a stone and threw it into the water of a nearby pond. "Watch the waves that form," said the master, "and observe how the movement of the stone creates an effect on the surrounding water." The disciples watched intently as the waves spread from the point of impact of the stone, radiating outward until they reached the shores of the pond. "Just as waves ripple through water," the monk continued, "our actions and reactions impact the world around us. But we must discern when it is best to let go and when it is necessary to act." Then the master told them a story that directly concerned the Buddha. It is said that one day while the Buddha was walking through a village, a man insulted him grossly, pouring down a cascade of offensive words and threats. The disciples, shocked by what had happened, expected the Buddha to react, but he remained calm and silent, continuing his walk without showing any sign of irritation or resentment. When the Buddha was out of the man's sight, one of his disciples asked incredulously, "Master, how did you remain so calm in the face of such hurtful words? Why didn't you respond in defense?" The Buddha smiled at his disciple and replied, "Imagine someone offers you a sweater as a gift, but you don't accept it. To whom does that gift belong?" The disciple replied, "If I don't accept it, the gift remains with the one who gave it to me." "Exactly," said the Buddha. "The same is true with hurtful words and threats. If you don't accept them, if you don't react to them, they remain with the one who said them." Remember, my dears, that reacting with resentment and anger is like ingesting poison in the hope that it will harm others. But in the end, we ourselves are the ones who suffer the most damage. The disciples, after listening attentively, began to reflect on the words of Master Lao, on the story of the Buddha, and on the precious teaching of not reacting to the provocations of others. As they recalled incidents in which they had been involved, they began to understand that ignoring is not a sign of weakness, but rather a form of wisdom and inner control. And you, when faced with an injustice or insults, how do you usually behave? Share your experience in the comments below the video. Master Lao, to reinforce the concept he had just conveyed, took his disciples to a quiet place inside the monastery and began to talk about human suffering. "Those who harm others," the master explained, "are often trapped in a cycle of pain and dissatisfaction. Those who insult and harm others do not know true happiness because their minds are clouded by anger, jealousy, and frustration." As the disciples pondered the master's words, trying to understand his point, Lao continued, "Think about when you are happy and satisfied with your life. At those times, do you need to insult and hurt others to feel good? The disciples shook their heads in denial. "Exactly," said Master Lao. "True happiness comes not from harming others, but from cultivating love, compassion, and inner peace." So, my dear disciples, when someone treats us badly and causes us pain, we must stop for a moment and reflect on three things. The first is that reacting with anger will hurt us more than it will hurt him. In fact, if he provoked us, it is because he wants to see a reaction from us. If he does not see it, he will be deeply disappointed and will have something to think about. The second thing to think about is that if that person behaves like this, it is because in reality, he is very unhappy and dissatisfied with himself. People who are well, who have an emotional balance, are too focused on their well-being to think about harming others. The third thing you need to think about when someone hurts you is that the only action you should take is to move on, feeling compassion for them. The disciples, impressed by Lao's wise words and the teachings they had just learned, pondered how to implement these suggestions in their daily lives. One of them, echoing the thoughts of many others, asked, "Master Lao, I am truly grateful for your precious teachings. However, it is very difficult not to react to certain attitudes. When someone hurts you deeply and leaves scars, most of us humans react instinctively or are too hurt to remain inactive. How can we work on ourselves so that it is easier for us to ignore these individuals and move on?" Lao smiled and, looking his disciples in the eye, replied, "It is understandable that you find it difficult to ignore in the face of abuse. For this reason, my dears, listen very carefully to the advice I am about to give you. The first thing you need to do is cultivate inner awareness. Before you react to an offense or injustice, it is important to become aware of your emotions and thoughts. Often anger and resentment arise from our impulsive reaction. If instead we stop for a moment to reflect, we will be able to better understand the situation and prevent it from degenerating. Practicing patience in our daily lives is another practical exercise that I suggest you carry forward. Remember that patience is a precious virtue that helps us to remain calm even in the face of the worst provocations. Learn to meditate every day, taking time to cultivate inner calm. Even when someone hurts us, it is important to remember that that person may be driven by suffering or ignorance. I assure you that if you practice responding with kindness instead of anger, you will see a positive change in your lives. I also invite you to recognize the impermanence of things. Everything in life is transitory, including the offenses and injustices we suffer. Remembering that nothing is eternal allows us not to give too much importance to negative events and to let go of the desire for revenge or immediate justice. My dears, focus on the good. Even in the most difficult situations, if you think about it, there is always something positive to focus on. Maintaining an optimistic outlook on life helps us overcome difficulties and not let the negative actions of others influence us negatively. After these wonderful teachings of the Buddha, it is time to reveal to you an even more powerful secret. Before revealing it to you, I invite you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss all our next videos. Buddha teaches, next time someone hurts you, take a moment to breathe deeply and imagine that you are surrounded by a golden light. This light is your protection and reminds you that nothing can really touch you unless you allow it. This simple exercise can transform your reaction and strengthen your inner peace.